Hi, and thanks for joining me. Welcome to my very first afternoon live chat. Look, it's still light outside, kind of an overcast day in California. I hope that the switch to this format will give me a little bit more room to stretch out when we talk, to go a little bit deeper when that seems appropriate. And I hope also that this time slot will be more accessible for many of you as well. So, enough of the preliminaries. Let's get on with the show. And I am going to stretch over here and take my little note. It says, crossed out the words you know. A little note from AC. So I'm going to be talking about a Christmas novella that I wrote a couple of years ago. It's called Stella's Journey. So this is Christmas. And the pieces that I want to talk about are about friendships, because, and where's the cursor at? I was talking with somebody earlier this week or last week, and we were talking about regrets. So I was doing some research, and I came upon this article. A palliative care nurse lists 5 of the top regrets her dying patients expressed towards the end of their life. 1. I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. 2. I wish I hadn't worked so hard. 3. I wish I'd had the courage to express my feelings. 4. I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. 5. I wish that I had let myself be happier. Now, we can spend hours discussing each of these regrets, figuring out how we can prevent from making those same mistakes in our lives as we move forward. And I just want to talk about one of these regrets because I'm self-centered and it kind of is about me. Personally, the regret, I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends, is my Achilles heel. I really admire people who keep in touch with friends from their 8th grade volleyball team. I covet those relationships that have lasted for decades. And I've been fortunate, you know, even though I talk about friends being an Achilles heel, I have had several people in my life for the last 40 years, and that's remarkable. Thinking back as I was writing this, I remembered back in the 1980s when part of my job was to make home visits to shut-in single senior citizens, you know, just to kind of evaluate their home situation. I remember meeting this one remarkable woman who was in her early 90s. Her mind was so clear, even though her body was betraying her. Her single-wide mobile home was wall-to-wall books. She told me that in the 1950s, she had been the first woman editor in her hometown newspaper. And that hometown was on the East Coast. So I asked her how she ended up alone, far from that hometown. And she peered at me through these really thick Coke bottle glasses and smiled feebly. And she said, at my age, if you can count on one hand the number of friends you have all the joy in the world. And then tears rolled down her soft, wrinkled face as she said, I forgot my friends during my success. And I never forgot that piece of advice. I never forgot that woman. I never forgot that trailer full of books, right? And today I'm reading a bit, like I said, from my first Christmas novel. I'm going to explore childhood friendships, new friendships, friendships made through work, and how do we safeguard those relationships. I'm introducing a few new characters, reintroducing a few characters that you met before, and bringing to the forefront characters that have been in the periphery. And Annie Goins is one of those people. You've met Annie before in other books. This is a story about Annie discovering that she's no longer alone, that she can count on others to help. And part of the lesson for her is to graciously accept that help. Annie's eyes filled with tears. She hadn't thought that far. Bree was right. She was thinking of getting the first plane out and picking Stella up. God, Bree, I'm not thinking straight. I don't know what I could do except just show up and demand to have custody of Stella. Bree patted her hand like a parent to a frightened child. It's going to be just fine. We'll get her up here. Annie felt a tremendous relief when Bree said we. In her life, there was very rarely a we. It was Annie, friendless and alone. Since moving to Walkerville and experiencing that special connection, she recognized for the first time what that support looked like. Of course, she mused, it was easier for her to be part of that we as long as somebody else was the recipient of that help. Now the circle was wrapping around Annie and her sister Stella. She realized her inclination was to handle this on her own as she had everything else in her life. Perhaps she could do with some help. Perhaps she could do with a level head. Perhaps she could do with a plan. And you'll remember in Walkerville, there are several places to live for those who need housing. There's the little apartment in the back of the Montrose Hall where several people have lived. There's the flat above Torquil's law offices, and then there's a little studio in the back of Al and Josie's house. And in order to live in one of these places, you don't need a credit rating. You don't need to fill out a rental application. You're not competing with a dozen other folks for the same place. These places, as far as the Walkervillians are concerned, are part of the ebb and flow of this community. People need help, they get help, no questions asked, no scores taken. After the shock that the news of Annie's half-sisters sent through the small community had dissipated and her health and welfare became the first focal point, everyone pitched in to support the reunion. And that this was the holiday season heightened the sense of urgency. Practical plans were put in place, such as living accommodations for the two sisters, as well as for Bill Hancock, who was busy arranging and performing miracles on his end. Jerry and Ruth cleaned and sorted out the apartment above Torquil's office. Sue and Josie collected funds to decorate both the apartment and the studio on Josie and Al's property for Bill. And they also made sure there were a few gifts under the tree for the teenager. Everyone agreed she needed to feel included, especially on Christmas. There, housing sorted. And Paz, a born Walkervillian, as you all know, has close ties to the community. She's got friends in Walkerville that she's known all her life. She's making new friends. And what is that childhood rhyme? Make new friends, keep the old. One is silver, the other gold. Annie Going's thumbnails were bitten to the quick. This unattractive penchant meant her thumbs were often bandaged. She would then have to wear clear vinyl food service gloves that made her hands sweat. The net result was that her thumbs hurt even more. Paz gave her new friend a good-humored slap on the hand as she gnawed the bandage of her left thumb. Annie was a nervous wreck, and Paz was doing all she could to keep her calm and focused. These two women, Bree and Annie, were new friends in Paz's life. She had met Bree initially through Rowan, who was a childhood friend. He and his father had moved up to Alaska when Rowan was still in high school, and Bree and Rowan lost all contact until they both moved back to Walkerville. Fiona, another childhood friend, had spent some time working at the homeless shelter in Resolute Rock. A successful caterer there, Bree Leonard often donated nutritious, tasty food to the shelter. Bree and Fiona became friends, keeping in touch. It was only natural that Fiona asked Bree to cater their wedding. An unfocused, perplexed Bree arrived in Walkerville for the wedding shortly after her home, including the licensed kitchen from which she ran her business, was destroyed in an electrical fire. Fiona introduced Bree to Rowan, and to everyone's surprise, things progressed quickly between them. They became partners in Rowan House, then quietly eloped to Vegas. So you go from friends to partners to marriage. You can. And the baton's passed, right? There's always that torch, kind of like the Olympic torch that gets passed from, one person to another, from one path to another, lighting up a different path. A newcomer is introduced, possible friendship starts and grow. And you have this this curiosity about who is this person? Would I be happy meeting them? Bill Hancock poked his head out the front door. Hey, Paz, you out there? I think we're leaving. Joining him on the small porch, she said, I was just talking with my mom and my boyfriend. They're all anxious for us to get home. His freckled face erupted into a delighted smile. Really? Home? That's nice. Impulsively, Paz put the phone on speaker mode. Here's my mom, Jerry. Mom, this is Bill. Torquil, this is Bill. Torquil, an attorney, often used a speakerphone to confer with several parties at one time. He was much more comfortable than Jerry was with this mode of communication. Hey, Bill, Torquil McLeod. Good to meet you. Sounds like we'll meet in person very soon. Bill responded heartily. This is just great. I'll get to see my favorite people again and meet new ones. Pause! Jerry's voice boomed through the line. Jerry hated surprises like this. Bill took it in stride. This is Bill Hancock. Mrs. Miyoshi, you've got a great, wonderful daughter. Paz giggled. She also heard her mother struggle with the title. Actually, it's just Jerry to you, Bill, if I may call you that. Oh, smooth, Mom, Paz said to herself. Why, yes, that's perfect. Bill, please. I'm looking forward to meeting everyone when we get to Walkerville. I've got some idea of the place from listening to Fiona when she was down there, and Annie and Paz have talked about it. Sounds like a great place to live and to be from, Bill purred as he spoke to Jerry. Paz heard her mother's normally unruffled voice shake as she announced to Bill, Listen, Josie said not to worry about a place to stay. You'll be in their studio. The trailer door opened and Annie peeked her head out. God, I thought you two had left us. We're ready. Hi, Annie, Jerry shouted from the phone. Annie, how are you? Torquil joined Jerry. The Scot sounded thrilled to be part of the conversation. The young woman laughed. Oh, it's so good to hear your voices. I was just telling Paz and Bill I was afraid they'd left us. Stella's finished packing, so we're ready. With goodbyes and see you soon, Paz hung up. The three went back inside to help Stella with her baggage. So the journey begins. It's Stella's journey, and this is Christmas. Stella's a 16-year-old, and she's a half-sister of Annie. They're going to be going to a new home, a new town, a different environment. Um, their lives are going to be different. They're going to interweave in the present, in the moment, in Walkerville, a fresh start, even when you didn't know that you needed one. As soon as Fiona called for help, Bill was more than willing to dive right in. During the round of phone calls to arrange the details, the old friends caught up on personal news. Both Bree and Fiona listened without judgment or criticism to the synopsis of his last 6 months. Moved by the same impulse to help their friend, each woman suggested he stay in Walkerville for a while. He took that lifeline. This is a season as any, the season of faith, hope, and joy. Bill felt he was giving himself the best present possible. So these are some of the excerpts from Stella's journey. And I want to take notes from my Walkerville friends, how to make friends, keep friends, enjoy my friends, make new ones. I want to not be that person who regrets losing touch with my friends. So we spent today looking back on Stella's journey. So this is Christmas, which was an ebook only back in 2019. I'm working on a new novella that we expect to have ready for this holiday season. And the idea with these is explore stories that some of the other Walkervillians who haven't really had much of a say in the stories, show up. I can tell you that today. That this year's story has been. The working title is A Worthy Christmas. So if you're a faithful regular to Walkerville, that might just provide you a clue for who the Christmas story might be about. Thanks for joining me today. And remember to check the video below this video. YouTube counts everything, so it means a lot if you give us a thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments, there's links to my Facebook and Instagram and my email address. Remember that I'm so sorry. I did eat a cough drop before this. Remember that AC is archiving all these. So check the playlists on my phone. Actually, check the playlist on my page. The direct link for next Wednesday's afternoon's live session is there too. See you then. Bye.